Hi, welcome back to my channel. Open the Door. This is episode 62, The Keys to Embracing Your Dark Side. So if you look back in my earlier videos, you might find, well, you will find episode 16 where I talked about your light and dark sides of yourself, of your essence. Today I'm going to focus on just the dark side and why I feel it's important to embrace your dark side. So, to understand ourselves more deeply, grow and find balance, we need to look at both our dark and light sides within us. Accepting both the dark and light aspects of ourselves can help transform inner conflict into self-mastery. Our dark side refers to aspects of ourself and our human nature that are often suppressed, rejected, or that we avoid confronting. So there's another term similar to dark side, which is, negative traits. And this dark side, negative traits, these are two different things. They're not the same. I'm going to talk about the differences between the two right now. So our dark side is referring to the broader aspects of ourselves, these hidden or repressed parts that we don't readily express, things like our emotions, our desires, and our impulses. And they may be sometimes considered socially taboo or unacceptable, things like anger, lust, envy, and a need to control. But anything having to do with their dark side requires deep self-reflection, acceptance, and then ultimately integration into your full essence, into yourself. All right, so this other term, negative traits, that deals more with specific behaviors and habits or qualities that are often considered undesirable or unproductive. Things like laziness, arrogance, and dishonesty. And dealing with our negative traits requires behavior modification. So sometimes negative traits can surface when the dark side is ignored and the two intersect. And here's some examples of that happening. So say you have a side of you it gets jealous easily. Okay, so jealousy, that comes from your dark side. But it could be expressed as manipulation, and that is a negative trait. Another example of when these two things interact and intersect is a fear of rejection, which comes from our dark side, but that results in dishonesty and unethical behaviors, which would be negative traits. And then a third example I have here is repressed anger, which would reside there in your dark side, causing passive aggressive behaviors towards others, and that would be a negative trait. So coming up next is a list of examples that hold potential for your healing and transformation. And these are not inherently bad things, but these are rather things to be acknowledged and recognized as areas where we could integrate and work with our dark side. Okay, so like the first one on the list I have is, uncomfortable feelings, things like anger, jealousy, fear, guilt, shame. And then the deeper, more shadow traits that could also, by dealing with, lead to transformation would be things like selfishness, greed, deceit, narcissism, apathy, arrogance. Another example of a potential for healing and transformation would be our unconscious desires, and looking at those more deeply. Things like lust, inappropriate attraction, desire for revenge, craving power and attention, or even ideation of rebellion and or destruction. Another example would be our negative habits and addictions. Things like alcohol, drugs, food, toxic behaviors and thought patterns, and even self-sabotage. So these examples can show up in our life in ways that, this aspect of self called archetypes. So these are examples of shadow archetypes, type of personalities that show up when the dark side has not been dealt with. So for example, somebody with a victim mentality, feeling powerless and seeking attention. That's an archetype. Another one is the saboteur, the person who's consistently undermining opportunities caused by fear. Another archetype would be the rebel, the person who's constantly challenging rules just from the motivation of disrupting. And then there's the people pleaser, people who avoid conflict or seek to gain approval by constantly trying to please others around them. So a couple more aspects of the shadow side that show up when we have not dealt with this shadow side of ourselves would be something called moral ambiguity, where we're knowing right from wrong but choosing selfish actions and satisfaction for ourselves over the needs of others, and or gaining a sense of satisfaction when we observe others failing. Also, existential and spiritual shadows can show up as a fear of death, an unknown, loss of faith, spiritual crisis. Inner conflicts are all examples of that. So to finish this out, I want to talk about why it's essential to embrace our dark side. First of all, it brings us ultimately to a sense of wholeness and authenticity. So when we're ignoring this dark side, it creates an incomplete sense of self, imbalance within our thoughts and emotions. And by embracing this dark side, it helps us to acknowledge both sides and gain that sense of balance. Embracing our dark side brings emotional freedom. So the repressed feelings of anger, jealousy, fear, unresolved pain block our healing path and hold power over our choices and decisions. So when we face the shadow side and integrate what lessons are to be learned from the shadow side, we're able to move forward with more confidence in our choices and our decisions. Embracing our dark side also brings about self-awareness and growth, and acceptance of both these sides helps us view ourselves more realistically. No one is pure lightness and no one is pure darkness. We all contain both aspects of this light and dark. So by acknowledging that, we're being more realistic with ourselves and about others as well. Leading to the next point, which is having compassion for others. We're all dealing with aspects of our dark side, and some people face that darkness and work towards and through the healing process. And what's probably more common is turning your back on your dark side and not wanting to acknowledge those aspects of self. But ultimately, you'll gain greater resilience by facing and dealing with your dark side, because it builds resilience by teaching us to confront difficult feelings without feeling overwhelmed, which is what happens over time as you consistently work through this in this aspect of yourself. Also, a great side effect of dealing with the dark side is that it ignites the creative engine. So embracing our dark side can fuel creativity. It's a source of raw, authentic inspiration, and as a singer and songwriter, I can attest to that I have more than one or two songs that deal with the dark side. But I usually include in these songs the balance of what the light can do for us as well. So this is our episode for today, Embracing Your Dark Side. My next episode number 63, is going to be a meditation for embracing your dark side. And I'll do that as a separate video, either get that recorded probably today and then put that out in a few more days after this one comes out. So I hope you're doing well and being patient with yourselves. It's a big week coming up and we're all feeling anxious about that. So remember to take deep breaths and trust that whatever comes about is for our greatest and highest good. In the meantime, take good care of yourself. Have a great day. I will see you again soon. So stay well, and bye for now.